Good evening to you and to the viewers. So far, there is no guarantee that anyone will commit that Israel would commit to the ceasefire agreement. Hamas announced yesterday and today that they want to settle and to go to the next phase, provided that there are guarantees for Israel to withdraw from Gaza and commit to the ceasefire, applying the humanitarian protocol. But Netanyahu is stalling and sent a delegation to Cairo without any mandates, and he's working to obtain to restore all the bodies and detainees in 45 days without any compromise or understanding with the Hamas regarding the ceasefire agreement and also the Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. Consequently, this will lead to further negotiations regarding the second phase that is going to be very complex and difficult because Netanyahu obviously does not want to settle or commit to what has been agreed upon during the past January in Doha for the three-phase agreement. After the end of the first one, the second and third will face a lot of complications because Netanyahu now has the support of the US administration without any desire of completing the ceasefire or withdrawing from the Gaza Strip, except with the very difficult and impossible conditions that he placed to disarm Hamas and remove it completely from Gaza, and Hamas said that is totally unacceptable.
Now, regarding the humanitarian aid to Gaza, what are the challenges surrounding it? And if you can expand on the role Egypt plays in delivering humanitarian aid to it.
Egypt plays an integral role also in the negotiations and reaching the first phase of the truce. During the past few days, there were a lot of excuses and Israeli impediments to get out of the first phase by Netanyahu, and Egypt intervened more than once, even with delivering the four lost bodies and the rejection by Israel to release the Palestinian detainees on last Saturday, giving the excuse that the protocol of detainee exchange are provocative to the Israeli community, and therefore they refrained from holding their end of the bargain. And here Egypt intervened to push forward the release of Israeli bodies and the release of Palestinian detainees. And so far, there is no intention by Netanyahu to respond to the Egyptian Qatari proposals and even the US support. And we are waiting for Steve Witkoff to reach the Middle East next Sunday to supervise these negotiations with cooperation with Egypt and Qatar. He might provide some guarantees to pressure Netanyahu and Israel to handle this matter positively and enter the second phase without any excuses, obstacles, or any the Israeli violating and stalling Israeli practices, which would lead to prolonging the negotiations unless there is a US pressure in this very difficult phase, because Netanyahu is not willing to withdraw or continue the ceasefire. Uh, because this would lead to the resignation of his government, including Smotrich and the far right officials.
Regarding the Emergency Arab Summit to be held in Cairo on March 4th, where a reconstruction plan in Gaza will be presented without displacement, what are your expectations regarding its key outcomes?
Of course, this is an extraordinary, urgent summit. It was very well prepared by the Egyptian side with a complete, comprehensive, and integrated proposal regarding the Gaza reconstruction with different phases and timings. This was offered and presented with Arab parties and states, and even the European Union by the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Egypt. which all approved this proposal. I think this will be a very successful summit and will play a pivotal role to counter the proposal of Netanyahu and Trump to displace the Palestinian population from Gaza. Egypt now is outlining an Arab project that will be provided to the international community, and Trump following the summit to agree on the Gaza reconstruction plan to hold an international conference for the Gaza reconstruction and establishing a sovereign fund sponsored by the United Nations and the Arab League for the Gaza reconstruction with the Palestinian remainings on their lands, as well as a lot of political settlement negotiations with the Israeli side to implement the three-phase agreement, and what is regarding the day next the war to regarding the governance of Gaza Strip. This conference will establish the pillars of the comprehensive political process through the Arab Initiative for Peace and holding for the establishment of a Palestinian state on the borders of 1967 with East Jerusalem as capital. So that's why this conference will be highly significant.
Now, in light of tonight's cabinet meeting to be led by Benjamin Netanyahu, what are your expectations regarding his decisions?
Of course, Netanyahu will work to present some new proposals to try to tempt Hamas and demanding Egypt and Qatar to keep mediating. But he will not provide any serious or essential proposals to stop the killing and the war in Gaza and not going back to the war again. He will also Netanyahu will provide some suggestions that are light and simple that will not either satisfy Hamas or be in line with any of the three-phase agreement items after he found the support of Trump and the U.S. administration providing a political cover to take all the measures that only serves the interests of Israel and wage the war in Gaza. And we are going to wait to see the Witkoff visit to the Middle East and what he will pledge to the mediators regarding practicing any pressure on Israel